What up, though, world? Savvy Monroe back in the house with another blog for y'all. And today we about to cover the track off of my project, Index Life Death Creation. It's called Louise. And on Louise, first of all, I would like to say thank you to everybody that has purchased, supported, spread the word, shared, or made any inquiries about my project. I totally appreciate all of the fans, anybody that's pushing it in any type of way, just, trying to get the music out here because, it's no point in having messages in the music or, you know, trying to spread a vibration or a message without people helping me spread the word. So, first and foremost, that's what I like to do. Thank you all for anybody that's had any type of hand in getting the music out. Um, it just came out this weekend and it's doing wonderfully. The reviews are impeccable. Everybody loves what they've heard, but the one track that has been gaining a lot of traction and also raising a lot of questions has been Louise. So we about to break down Louise. Um, First and foremost, shout out to the creators of Near Autonoma and Near Replicant. If you listen to the track, it's obvious inspirations from those medias. Those are video games for y'all that don't know, um, and it's pretty. The story is deep. It goes back to a video game named Drakengard, and then the near games are like the futuristic versions of the Drakengard games, and it gets kind of deep. So recently, I played through Near Replicant on the PlayStation 4 Pro, and it's a beautiful game. It blew me away. It has a few slow parts, but overall, I loved it. Dope experience. But what happened was they had a part that they added on the game strictly for the new release. This is a chapter. This was not available on the older Near Replicant because Near Replicant is technically a remake of an older PlayStation game that they remade for the PlayStation 4. They upgraded some of the fighting system and they added this chapter here. Um, and it's about a girl who is a shade. Um, Shades are basically what happened to humanity after this giant organism, so to speak, fell from the sky and it sprinkled these particles onto the earth, and it basically turned all the humans into what are known as shades, which is like these orb silhouettes, or these energy silhouettes of what used to be human beings. Now, when you first play through the game, they don't tell you that these energy like silhouette people used to be human beings, and the people that you're actually playing as, the ones that actually look like humans, are the clones, like AI. Everything is AI, everything is artificial intelligence. All the people, all the actual people in the game, and the giant monsters or the people that look like these like yellowish silhouettes are actually the shades, and they are actually the original people. So you find this girl who's able to disguise herself as a human. Most shades can, some shades, not most of them, but some shades can disguise themselves to still look human. But they can't be exposed to the sun or they'll burn out. So they hide in the shade, hence the word shade. Um, the postman of this particular area, when the organism from the sky came and broke down and turned all the humans into shades, it kind of reset time. Even though this game is based in the far, far, far future, far beyond 3,000 years in the future, but a lot of things reset in the way they do things. They don't have like airplanes, they take it back to like traditional transportation. Um, and they actually have a postman that like one guy that walks around and delivers mail. So this one guy, he ends up finding an abandoned boat. He goes on the boat, he finds this lady named Louise, this little girl named Louise, and She looks like a human. He doesn't know any better. So he tries to cater to her. You know, he feeds her, he tries to take care of her, he even tries to convince her to come back to stay with him. She refuses. Now, as you're playing the game, you're pretty much on a mission to eliminate all the shades. You know, as the main character who you pretty much can name, we're just gonna call him Near. Him and Kasane or Kayane, whatever her name is, and my man Emil, y'all pretty much are shade exterminators. Like, and in my story, in my song, I call them hunters, and y'all go out and y'all kill shades. Um, his sister, Near's sister, was taken by a shade, so that's kind of why he's out to eliminate shades, because his sister was taken by one, and he kind of has a vendetta or whatever against shades. So he goes out, he starts to eliminate the shades, and when they run into this particular shade on the ship, it's an abandoned ship on some old beach or whatever, and they like, oh, that's a shade, because they can sense them. You know, Kayane actually has a shade with her, like in her psyche or something. So he can detect shade. So she knew it was a shade from the beginning. He didn't know. And the shade and the postman actually ended up falling in love in a sense. More like a father-daughter type of situation, but they both loved each other. So when they attacked her, the shade ended up transforming into this giant um sea creature, tentacles and all this crazy stuff. This is happening on the game. Now I'm explaining how this pertains to my song in a minute. But the Louise on the game transforms to this giant sea creature. It got like eyes and mouths on the tentacles, and it shoot all this energy and all this stuff, and you kill it. Um, but the thing is, the postman didn't know that this creature was a sea creature. So when it transformed, he was in shock. He thought it was a human figure, or what he is. He thought it is what he was the whole time, and when he saw that, he kind of flipped out and was like, oh my god, you're a creature. And he went crazy, and he didn't want to have anything to do with her again. But she still was in love. Only reason she even turned into the monster is to protect herself and to protect him. And that was it. And it was kind of a really, really sad thing, because you saw this relationship develop and then it kind of fell apart. So in my story, the first verse, it talked about the beginning of how things are. Like, I kind of touch on like the Drakengard, but I flip it in my way, where basically in my story, the humans have evolved. It's 3,000 plus years in the future. The humans have evolved back into sea creatures. Because if you do your research on how we supposedly had evolved, they say we came from the sea first. We were like sea mammals, and then we evolved to be land mammals. But so we basically evolve again, but through this new evolution, because they tamper with the sun, and the sun is what hurts us in my story, just like the shades, but it's for a different reason. Like, this is 3,000 years, 3,000 plus years in the future, so all of the technology that is available is made for the AI, the artificial intelligence, just like Near, the people in the actual ones that look like humans. And some of the shades, some of the sea creatures look more human than others, but they all have the ability to transform into an actual sea creature, right? Some type of crazy leviathan or kraken or whatever the case may be. So the robots, or the AI, the artificial intelligence in my story, have taken over what the world is like at the moment. So they've tampered with the sun to give them energy, but because they tamper with the sun so much, it actually hurts us. So we reverted back to the waters. So all of the actual humans that they call shades in my song, we reside in the water. We do come to the land from time to time because the sun doesn't immediately hurt us, but we kind of live like amphibians. We can go to the land for a minute, but we go back to the sea because it cools us off, and that's pretty much where our natural habitat is. So I set the tone, by telling a story of where we're at in the future, in the first verse. Talk about, like I say, I talk about the AI and how they're the dominant species, but they were created by Caucasians. They created by what was the majority of so-called majority of human beings. So they still have the the intelligence of a white person. You know what I'm saying? Like, just the idea of conquer and colonization and things of that nature. It's like, you know, they still have that in them, even though they're AI. The person or the peoples that program them still have a colonizer mindset. That's why they took over the entire land, and that's why they actually hunt the shades. Whenever they see a shade, they kill it. That's their goal, because they don't want the shades to come back and take over and run the land, kind of like a lot of Caucasians don't want black men and black women to come together and take back our land. They have all type of psychological weapons and physical weapons, and other ways to keep us in a system where they are looked at to be the ones above us. So I took that same ideology and applied it to the shades, who are like the new minorities, the colored, the brown and black peoples, and the AI, the clones, the artificial intelligence, to be the new land creatures or whatever. Even with the clone, they call us, like, we, the shades, call them clones because they came from us. And if you do your research, the black man is the dominant one. Our genes are dominant. So anything that's not black is an extension of us. And we are the original, and they are kind of like the clones of us, so to speak. Just a different pigmentation. But you can't have a white man without a black man being the dominant gene, first. No matter how far back that goes in the past, but that's how the genes go. That's how the biology of that whole system goes. So, you know, dabbling with a lot of real world ideas or real world facts, sprinkling it in the song just to make it a little bit more thought provoking. Then you move to the second verse after I set the tone and explain how far in the future we are, how we're in this dystopian reality, and how the top is ran by this AI, these artificial intelligence, and the shades, aka black people and brown people, indigenous people, have taken it back to the sea. And we have entire cities and worlds under the sea, almost like Atlantis, but segregation at the highest level. Like, literally, if we go to the shore, or the land, I should say, the hunters or the AI, the clones, the artificial intelligence will hunt us down and kill us because they still fear us, right? So keep that in mind. So going into the second verse, that's when I started to pull from the game. It's a guy who is a clone who meets a girl, a black girl in my story, um, on a boat that's washed ashore, some old boat. She's on there just kind of like wondering. She's a young girl separated from her family, and she's kind of wandering on the boat. Very strong individual, because it all depends the type of sea creature you turn into, just like the type of monster they turn into on Near Replicant. It depends on the energy levels. So this little black girl is incredibly strong. That's why they had to get her out of there by the end of the song. They had to kill her because they feared her. So as this man, this white man, this artificial intelligence, this robot, this clone, so to speak, is taking care of her. Now mind you, the clones look just like white men and white women and white, people. So regular white dude taking care of this little black girl, not real, and she looks human. So he's kind of startled, but he also realizes she's not a sea creature. So he really has taken a liking to her. You know what I'm saying? But in my story, it's almost like a love thing. It's kind of weird. You know what I'm saying? Because as artificial intelligence, it's something new. So it's kind of downloading new information. Like, I think I love this little black girl. It's so different from what I see. So they're he's feeding the black girl just like the postman was on the game and everything. So eventually the hunters, the people that hunt shades that come to the land, come to the ship, and they tell the man it's a shade on the ship. They have machinery and technology that detects shades, right? So the technology detected this extremely powerful shade on the ship, and they got to it finally. And they tell the man, like, that little black girl is a shade. And he's like, no, it's not a shade. I've been taking care of her. She's just like us. She just have a darker, a different skin complexion. They're like, no, that's a shade. Trust us. So they gets to the girl. They apprehend him. They lock him down, And they get to the girl and they start using their weapons to shoot her down. But she's strong. She turns into her sea creature, which is like some type of kraken leviathan thing. And she gets to wrecking stuff, tearing apart the boat just like Louise did on the video game, and just going crazy, right? So the hunters in my story, which is akin to Kayane, Emil, and Near, they get the bucking. They going with they fighting against the sea creature, the girl that turns to the sea creature. Now, the guy that was taking care of her, just like the postman, he's blown away by this. He thought she was a regular girl. You know what I'm saying? A regular little girl, regular clone like he is. But once he see that she's actually a sea creature, all love is gone. Like, I don't want to deal with this person because you are what I hate. I've been programmed to hate sea creatures, the ones that come from the original man, the shades. I've been programmed to hate them. So as soon as I see that you're actually one of them, I don't like you no more. I want you dead. Now, the girl doesn't understand this. She's young and she doesn't have that type of hate in her heart. So she's like, hold on, I still love you. You're supposed to have my back. And he like, telling effort, forget you. I don't want you no more. And they eventually have enough ammunition and gunpowder to gun her down. And she ended up being destroyed at the end. And the last words is him saying, nigger, fuck you, which is almost like a defect, but also something that they picked up from the original programmer. The original programmer that programmed her got that type of mentality. It's still a racist undertone, even in the clones of 3,000, 4,000 years in the future. So they still have that nigger hard R, type of mentality. And that's pretty much how I correlated it to be from the game. So fiction, but also related to reality, also related to, a conscious thing, also related to, breaking down the aspects of systematic racism, classism. I tried to incorporate a lot of stuff into that song. And the fact that you guys love that song kind of blew me away. I'm not going to lie. I'm like, what? Because I kind of wrote that song as a challenge to myself. I really liked the game, but I didn't want to write it exactly like the game. I wanted to bring it into some type of reality that we can all understand. Even my white fans know this is a problem that we face. Black people in general, we face this problem still to this day, this type of problem where they cool with you. Like a white person might be okay with you as long as you abide by the system that they've set across. But if ever you get too far above, if ever it starts to look like they no longer have any control over you, they'll love you as long as you're at a certain position in life. If you reach a certain position, it's some white folks that will not like you for that. They'll try anything in their power to keep you down. That's where systematic racism comes into play. And that goes back to how he looked at that little girl. As she was black, she was different. She was almost like a token or a pet, to him. Like, oh my God, he did start to fall in love, but it was still kind of like, I'm in charge of her. I take care of her. I do recognize her as a child, but I also recognize her as something different, And then when he realized it was all along, it was what he had been programmed to fear because he didn't understand it, because he was afraid that if the shades ever come to the surface and take over, it could be in a whole new different evolution, where there are no AI and then the shades run the sea and the land. He was afraid of that all along, but he didn't know that's what it was. So when he saw it, and the little girl, she was just trying to protect herself and him. This also pertains to how black people, when we feel like we need to fight for something, we defend ourselves. This little girl, she only did this. He would have never even got to see her shade side until it was time for her to go back to the water. But he didn't stay on the boat with her. He would come back. He would leave and come back. If he leaves, she can go to the water because she does live like an amphibian. She cools off. She comes back to the boat, And it's like, whatever, this little girl, she's beautiful. She's different. I love her. And her whole time was like, I love you too. You're taking care of me. I've been abandoned from my family, and you're the only thing I know close to a person that's taking care of me like a parent. But at the same time, I'm loving you like a parent, but I'm also loving you like a lover. It's like all these mixed emotions because they're both figuring each other out. And only reason she did that was to protect herself. Just like black people, we attach to peace, and a lot of us, you know what I'm saying, a lot of them are attached to peace, and we just try to stay on our own. And a lot of times the only time we lash out is when we feel like we have to defend ourselves, or when things are against us directly. She never had to show that side of her, but when they came attacking her, she had no choice, you know. And that's how the story ends. And it's all these morals, everything I just explained. You could pull a moral out of it because it's a grandiose type of theme that I'm taking on. But that was the challenge for me. That's Louise off of Index Life Death Creation. It's on the death side. Index Life Death Creation is divided into two parts: life and death, and creation is the entire project as a whole. So I'm gonna do a video about that as well, so stay tuned for that. But Louise, the first breakdown off of Index Life Death Creation. The full project will be in the description. And this video was a little long-winded, but this was the one y'all wanted. This is the explanation y'all needed. Because the song was the deepest as far as where my mind went when I was thinking about what I wanted to get across and how I wanted to take that and bring it into the real world where my listeners could relate to it. So yeah, all of that. I'll also link the scenes to the game where all of this takes place, because all of this stuff is on YouTube. So I'll link the gameplay to the Louise chapter on Near Replicant. I'll link the new project so you can hear it in its entirety. And y'all can follow me on Twitter, Savior Monroe. Y'all can follow me on Instagram, Savior_Monroe. And subscribe to the channel because I'm going to be doing a lot more of these breakdowns. Index Life Death Creation has a lot to unpack. It's a very deep record, so definitely stay tuned if you want to be, intrigued by the creative process and the thought that y'all, are interested in where I took it when I was writing these songs. Subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell. Y'all know what time it is. Savior Monroe out. Peace.